wish these songs had 10 or 12 verses.
Amen.
Wow. Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to sing. It praises Him and it edifies and encourages us, doesn't it? Sure does. JR has already expressed our welcome for your presence here, and we do have several visitors with us, and for that we are very, very grateful. Well, we've come to the best part of our lesson tonight. That is the reading of Scripture. Whenever you do that, that's the best part. You can't beat it, can you? Because that's the only thing about this lesson that will be perfect. Okay, tonight we'll be talking about another Bible character. We started off yesterday with Jesus, our great example. Then the preaching of Stephen last evening, and tonight we talk about Moses. You already know by the Scripture reading who this will be about. So let us read together. By faith Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. You heard that before? Esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Through faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of the blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should destroy them. Appreciate Don's singing of these songs about faith. And I guess we could do it all the time, especially during this week of meetings of Bible characters. So tonight we talk about some things that Moses did by faith. And we read a few of those in that reading there. But we need a little bit of introduction here. Talking to or about his parents, Amram and Jochebed. And you can read about them in Exodus chapter 2. You can read about a big part of his life story in Exodus chapter 2. It is filled with his history. If there's no parental faith, there's no Moses. By faith, they hid that baby for 3 months, didn't they? You know, I can see, especially in the robes that they wore, you might be able to hide a pregnancy, but to hide a baby, hide an infant for 3 months? And why would you hide the baby? Well, let's go on. They hid him for 3 months. They violated the king's command. Shame on them. No, we need to do that when the king's command breaks God's commands. We can read about that in Acts chapter 4 and verse 19 and Acts chapter 5 and verse 29. We ought to obey God rather than man. They were not afraid. Solomon said, the righteous are as bold as lions. And we ought to be. You know why? Because our enemy is unarmed. They are unarmed. We have the weapons of our warfare that Paul said in 2 Corinthians 10, 3 through 5, that are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. And we have to have that armor put on, Ephesians chapter 6, verses 11 through 18. All of it. So, look at the picture here of this brave woman, this brave mother, and what she did in hiding that baby. And she made an ark. Would you like to do that with one of your babies? Make an ark and send him down the river. I'm telling you, the Bible doesn't say much about it, but had I been writing, there would have been tears. There would have been tears flowing. She'd had him for 3 months, and now she's having to kiss him goodbye. And she doesn't know the rest of the story yet. Putting him in the water. Next time you read Exodus 2, put some emotion into it. Stop and meditate. And Miriam, her eldest, watched what was going on, didn't she? So without the faith of Amram and Jochebed, there's no Moses, because Moses will be put to death. That was the command of Pharaoh. And they went into the Israelites' homes with their own little babies, the Egyptians did, and pinched their own little babies and made them cry, which would make a quiet baby start to cry. They wanted to find them. Then Jochebed became his nurse. You see God's plan unfolding? Young people, when things look really bad for you, hang on. Do not throw in the towel, okay? You do not know what's ahead. You do not know what is tomorrow or the next day. As we'll talk about Joseph, the Lord willing, on Friday. Did he know what was ahead of him when he was put in prison for something he did not do? Hang on. Okay? Hang on. Look at the faith of his parents. Mom and Dad, can you have an effect upon your children's faith? Shake your head this way. Yea, verily, you sure can. You sure can. By faith. Did you ever refuse something? Did you ever tell somebody no and mean it? That's what refused means. Sometimes, well, we can say no, but we don't mean it. We got to say it like we mean it. Young ladies, you listen to me, or you'll be sorry. There will be occasions when you will wish you have said no and meant no. There's some things you need to refuse. And I told Tina that she had a sweet little hand, but it could also turn into a fist with some boy if he needed it. If he didn't understand what that little phrase, you don't understand what no means, let him explain the bloody nose or the black eye Monday morning when he goes to school. It wasn't a formal refusal, but it was by his actions, wasn't it? When he was 40 years old, he killed. That's how old he was when he killed that Egyptian slave driver, when he saw what he was doing to his brethren. And we were watching the Bible story with Micah the other day, and they got it all messed up. He was all alone. He buried him in the sand, the dead Egyptian. Of course, they had him in a crowd and everybody. What book are they reading? One chapter will tell you. Anyway, Acts 7:23 tells us he was 40. Just a young man, wasn't he? Then he fled to Midian. In Exodus 2 in verse 15. Running for his life. He refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. Look what he gave up, folks. Comforts of the palace. Did he not know what he was giving up? Sure he did. The word Pharaoh means he who lives in the great house. And Moses went from the great house to the poor house. Anybody want to try that on for size? And do it not by accident, but knowing what's going to happen. He went from being worshipped to being hunted and hated. Acts chapter 7, Stephen's sermon said he was well educated in all of the Egyptian knowledge. A man of words, even though later he told God, I'm not a good baker. He was filthy rich and became poor. A lot of comparisons between him and our Savior, isn't there? A life of security in the palace to a life of obscurity as a shepherd. That's what he spent doing the next 40 years of his life. Can you imagine the change? Choosing rather to suffer affliction. Whoa, 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 wait a minute. He refused to be called her son, and he chooses to suffer affliction. We talked about that with Jesus, that he told us that that's what's going to happen to us, and that we are going to be happy when we can. Do you know why we're going to be happy? That we're counted worthy to suffer for the one who died for us. And I've got yard work to do tonight. Didn't get the car washed. Let's see, what else can I use? And then I come and sing, "Oh, how I love Jesus." Really? We're making choices every day, aren't we? He made a definite decision. You know what Joshua 24:15 says? Choose you this day. You make choices every day. By the way, you made a choice to be here tonight, didn't you? Didn't you? Is there nothing else you could be doing? Obviously, there are something others are doing. Choose you this day. We choose every day. And it's not just attendance, but it is our daily lives. How I live. My thoughts. Whether I pick this thing up or not. And don't tell me you don't have time. You just don't take the time. And if you don't have the time for this, then you will not make the right decision. You will not choose affliction over riches. You just won't do it. He chose affliction over wealth. Again, we remind you of 2 Timothy 3 and verse 12. Yea, and all that live godly in Christ Jesus, what did we say yesterday? Might suffer persecution. No, that's a perversion. You will suffer persecution. Just mark it down, as Johnny Edwards says, in whatever book you mark things down in, that is going to happen to you. He chose affliction over a life of ease and luxury. You know what Genesis 39 is about? Joseph. That reminds you of anything? That he made a choice? We're all making choices. Young people, please make good choices. Say no when you have to. When nobody else is, you can. I want to rehearse and refurbish what your parents are telling you. And that they are not dumb. And that it's not that they just don't want us to have fun. No, they want you to look back in 10 years and to thank them for what they did for you, not to you, but for you. What Mark Twain said when he was 17 years old, he couldn't believe how stupid his parents were, but by the time he was 23 years later, he couldn't believe how smart they'd gotten. And I suppose we all think about, Mom, Dad, what planet are you from? Don't you know what's going on in the world? And they're shaking their head, yes, we do. Could I do that? When a world that we're living in is choosing riches? What do you think the lottery is all about, folks? I stood behind a fellow at the gas station on Kentucky Avenue a few years ago. He bought $20 worth of tickets and he was scratching and, oh, I won! I said, how much did you win? He said, $5. I said, no, sir, you're still 15 in the hole. And the lady handed him the $5. You know what he did? He burned it. Here, give me 5 more tickets. And a loser, loser, loser. That's what that's all about. In West Virginia, in our little 1800 one-stoplight town, we had at one time 7 places where you could go and lose your money. 7! And I saw cars pull up there, just barely making it. And they left broker than when they came. Make the right choices. You'll never be sad. Yes, Moses forsook the pleasures. We'll talk about that. And we must too. Don't be blinded by the devil for those few moments, that season, that brief season. He chose affliction over all the pleasures of sin. Demas didn't, did he? Hath forsaken me, having loved this present world. And folks, I want to tell you, young people, all old, it's a continuous battle, isn't it? Sure it is. Sure it is. The devil's never going to let up. He chose the worship of God over idols. What did David say in Psalm 115 and Psalm 135? They have eyes but can't see, ears but can't hear, tongues but can't talk, feet but can't walk. And those who make them are as dumb, one version says stupid, as the idols are. Isaiah 44, he said, you cut down a tree, you cook food with it, with part of that tree, and then you make an idol out of the rest of it. And you're intelligent? What would we do with this? Let's just call this our idol. You know what we would do with it? We'd paint and powder it, wouldn't we? And we'd put special lighting on it, so when we came in, it'd be glowing and flickering. Oh, we look at that. What's this thing going to tell us? Speak to me. Don, you be the first volunteer. You sit here until it talks to you, okay? You'll starve to death, won't you? So it's not going to tell you anything. Moses chose the God of heaven rather than the idols of Egypt. And you know who make the rules? Not the God, men do. And ladies, you don't have any say in it. You need to read about idolatry and what went on there. Nothing moral goes on. The second eye follows the first eye. Idolatry, then what? Immorality. Not sometimes, all the time. Every time. Ask the Catholic Church. Idols? Oh, they're not idols. Oh, yes, they are. You're bowing before them. Yes, they are. And who's having so much immorality problems? He chose the worship of God over idols. What would you have chosen? Will you choose, as Jesus said, blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake? Matthew 5:10. Would you choose that? You have chosen that. Now what are you going to do? Are you going to stand or are you going to cave? Well, if I don't go, I'm going to lose my friends. One friend of ours growing up, her little clique in high school, her girlfriend said, if you don't do this with us, then forget it. You're not hanging around with us anymore. She left them. And you know what happened the next few days? They came back to her. Said, we're sorry. That you had the courage to stand when we did not. She could see past this little thing on her face, her nose. Can you? What are you choosing? You're making choices. Do I want to know the future of every one of our young people here? All of you who are graduating, what will the next years be for you? You're making the choices, aren't you? Do you need to talk to yourself? I'll tell you who you need to talk to is God. God. You will never regret making right decisions. You choosing to study God's Word and not 5 minutes filling out your lesson book, hurry, get it done for class. Praying to God. Did you ever go to sleep praying to God? That's why a friend of mine said you get on your knees and pray. If you go to sleep, you'll fall off the side of your bed, and that'll wake you. Yeah. And attendance. You know what? You got 4 more nights of this. Whew. Doesn't sound like he's winding up yet. Helping others. That's for old folks. Really. Really. Teaching. Somebody's teaching you, aren't they? Once they were students. Once I was a student. Really? But if you grow, you'll want young people to know what you know. And teaching is imparting knowledge. He esteemed the reproach of Christ. Well, Jesus wasn't even alive yet. He esteemed the suffering for the coming Messiah. Yes, he knew about him. Greater riches than the treasures of Egypt. That's how he could do that. He knew where the riches were and weren't. If you think they're all here in this life, think again. He could see past the here and now to the hereafter. And where you go in the hereafter depends upon what you are hereafter. If you're here after popularity, then enjoy it. I'm telling you, you better enjoy it because it will not last. It will not last. Read Ecclesiastes. You know how much, chapter 1, you know how much of an impression you're going to make on this world? When you get home tonight, or if you go back to the drinking fountain after services, you take a little cup and you fill it up with water and you stick your hand in there or your finger in there and bring it out, and you'll see the impression that you're going to make on this world. Did you know in a few years, who? I know my grandfather and my great-grandfather, but past that, nope. They're gone. Their names are gone. See? So what am I here after? We're told over and over. He knew the triumphing, as Job said, and listen. As Job said, the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment. Is that not true? The triumphing of the wicked is short. God will take care of us. Do we work ourselves to death for fleeting riches? What will be on your epitaph? What was the guy said? You won't find anybody who says, I was so glad I spent so much time at work. Too many parents are waking up when their children are up and grown and wishing, have you heard the song of 40 years ago, The Cat's in the Cradle? I know you can Google it. Do it when you get home. It won't be worth it, folks. 1 Timothy 6 and verse 7, for we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. What was said when Donald Trump's going to die one of these days? And do you know what everybody will be asking? Like they have about every other millionaire, now billionaire. How much did he leave? What's the answer? Yeah. All of it. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. You want to try some other way? That's why Jesus said, lay not up for yourselves treasures on the earth. 2 verses later, he said, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Young people, if your treasure is your bank account, I've got a job, I'm saving money, woo, look at that, grow, me. And I hear by the time I'm 40, I can retire if I keep this up. Is that what it's all about? And not give a dime to the Lord who gave you the health, the air to breathe, the mind to think, to work that job, to make that money. And this is how we thank Him. Did you know back in the 1950s, we were the fastest growing, including us with all the denominations. Denominational preacher took this census. We were the fastest growing church in the United States. Do you know where we were in giving? 30th. Shame on us. Shame on us. Lay not up for yourselves. Set your affections over and over. The Bible tells us it's not here on this earth. Anybody know when we're going to die? When this thing's going to stop? It's going to. Mine's going to. Yours going to. When? Another poem you can read is The Dash. What are we doing with our dash? You know the date of your birth, and I'm more than happy to tell you when mine is. But I don't know the date of my death. Next, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater than the treasures of Egypt. Listen to Peter. For what glory is it if when you be buffeted for your faults, you shall take it patiently? And young people, I remember being at home, it was quite often that I was buffeted for my faults. But if when you do well and suffer for it, you take it patiently. You take it patiently. Again, back to Joseph. Was he the worst prisoner in that jail? No, they put him head, didn't they? Took it patiently. This is acceptable with God, for even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow His steps. We've already quoted 2 Timothy 3 and verse 12. You know what that says, don't you? Yea, and all that what? Okay. He had respect unto the recompense of the reward. Verse 26. Hebrews 11. Temporary rewards and pleasures are no match for God's promise. Matthew 5 and verse 12. For great is your reward in heaven. Look what God gives us here. You ever look up? Last night, a beautiful sunset. We had to go out in the yard. Take the time to enjoy that. And the beautiful flowers. Bend over and smell them. The lilacs. These little bushes outside, they're about gone. Why do they smell so sweet? The birds of the heavens. Butterflies. And on we could go. Listen to Jesus. Luke 6:22. Blessed are you when men shall hate you. And when they shall separate you from their company. Oh. I can't take that. I like to be liked. I want to be liked. How badly do you want to be liked? Do you want to be loved by the Lord or by your few friends? And for how long? We had nearly 2,000 kids in our high school, and I don't know where one of them is. And I haven't known for decades. Used to know all of their names nearly. I'm sure they don't know where I am. But will it be worth it when they shall separate you from their company? I can't take that. And shall reproach you. They're going to say things about you because you didn't go to the game. Because you don't dress like they dress. Because you don't go to the prom. Because you do not dance, and everybody does that. Tina's band teacher asked us, why is she restricted when other members of your congregation aren't? And you know what? She survived. Judy survived. I survived. One night. But I'll die if I guarantee you, you will not die. They will reproach you and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. Yes. Again, Acts 5:41, after the beatings and the threatenings, the apostles, the disciples rejoiced because they could suffer for his cause. It will be worth it. He had respect unto the recompense, the repayment of the reward that is coming. Why did the 49ers, people left the eastern states and went miles and months on travel, and many of them didn't make it, but they went to find the gold. The reward out there. It'll be worth it. That's what we've got to keep in mind. It will be worth it. The loss, the sacrifice of this life will be worth it. Verse 23, rejoice ye in that day, and leap for joy. For behold, your reward is great in heaven, for in like manner did their fathers unto the prophets. What he's saying, in other words, don't feel like the Lone Ranger, boo-hoo, poor me, I'm the only one that ever suffered like him. Wrong. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king. Where did he come by that? His mom and dad. They didn't fear the wrath of the king, and neither did Moses. Forsaking Egypt meant all the hopes of earthly gain and education were gone. Gone. Over. Which we pointed out. He did fear for his life when he killed the Egyptian slave driver. But not so much that he wouldn't do what God wanted him to do. And he received his courage, no doubt, from his parents. Wow. Listen to that. Verse 23, Hebrews 11. By faith Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents. It was his parents' faith that hid him, because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. Like father, like son. How we doing? Did you know, parents, that your children will think of as much of the church as you do? Or should we say as little of the church as you do? I happen to be brought up in a godly home, with a godly mother and father, and a father who was unable to work. From the age of 22, I've seen him go to worship when he could hardly see. His head was hurting so badly, and his face was drawn because of the pain. So many other things. And a mother that cared for him for over 50 years. When they said, till death do us part, for better, for worse, they meant it. They were not afraid. And neither should we be of anything. You hear me? He endured. I might be able to stand something for a little while, but he endured as seeing him who is invisible. You've not seen God, I've not seen God, but we know that he is. Don't we? And that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him, one like Moses. Just as Jesus endured in Hebrews chapter 12. Listen, looking unto Jesus. You want to focus your eyes on something, focus it on him. The author and finisher, or the pioneer and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him. What joy was set before him? Heaven. He wasn't blinded. Oh no, I can't go through this cross thing, this beating. And this ministry of 3 years of everybody wanting to kill you and hate you when you did nothing wrong. He endured the cross. Who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame. One commentator says that means he counted it as nothing. If it had been everything to him, he might not have done it. But he could see past the cross, couldn't he? Can we see past the persecution here in this life for the glory that is to follow? And has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. You think it was worth it? For consider him who endured such hostility from sinners against himself. You've not put up with what he did, and neither have I. You consider him, lest you become weary and discouraged in your souls. Again, Galatians 6 and verse 9. Be not weary in well-doing, for in due season, in God's time, you will reap if you faint not. How are you enduring? Again, Hebrews 10:36, you have need of patience, endurance, that after you've done the will of God, you might receive the promise. Not before, not until. Through faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of the blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should destroy him, or them. He kept the law he was under, lest they be punished. How are we doing? Are we keeping the law that we're under? We're under a better law, better commandments, better promises. How are we doing? How are we doing? Do we sing, oh how I love Jesus? Yeah, we do. Do we mean it? All to Jesus I surrender. And then go on vacation and take our contribution with us. I've noted sometimes when some of our members are gone and they come back, our contribution jumps up considerable. Just saying. And I know if I can notice that, I think God does too. It's my vacation. Hey, I earned it. Okay. Just look where refusing and choosing and esteeming and respecting and forsaking and enduring and keeping got Moses. About 3,000 plus years in paradise. Is it worth it? Of course there's no time there. Just considering that from our time on earth. Sure it was. It'll do the same for you. Can you refuse? Can you choose? Make right choices? Can you esteem the reproaches of this world greater riches? Can we endure? Yes, we can. God didn't give us something impossible to do. Secondly, if you're willing to pay the price, and that's what many are not willing to do. I'm telling you, you're going to be sorry. And do not say, nobody told me. You cannot stand before the Son of God, your judge, and say that. If you're willing to count the cost. It's up to you. You make the decision. There's nothing God has commanded us to do that is impossible. To reject His will and go to hell and look back and say, I had the opportunity, I had the time, but I didn't. It will not be worth it, will it? Everything we know on this earth ends. You get a new suit, a new coat, new shoes, new purse, new hat, new car. What happens? Moth and rust doth corrupt. Not there. No moth, no rust, no thieves, no disease, no sorrow, no pain, no heartache, no loss. You think you can stand that place? I think you know the answer and what you should do. Will you not obey the gospel of Jesus Christ? Again, to respond to the will of the one who loved you so much. For God so loved the world. Put your name in there. For God so loved, put your name there, that He gave His only begotten Son. Won't you be the one that believes tonight and is baptized into His Son and into the church, the ark of your salvation, right now, while we stand on, while we sing.